Titletown Takes, live on WMCK. Your home for the latest and greatest in all things Merrimack College and Boston sports. Listen to hosts Ian Beauchesne, Connor Powell, and Cameron Urbowicz for plenty of fun, vibes, and most importantly, hot takes.
Until the negativity goes away or starts to become less frequent, you're not allowed to wear anything with a smoked bee on it.
Yeah, I love that. That's
half
great.
my wardrobe.
Yeah.
On today's show, we talk about the NHL trade deadline and all the moves that have shaken up the NHL, the most recent USCHO and Pairwise rankings for college hockey, and finally, the most anticipated Bag of Fun question of the week.
Bag of fun. Everybody's been waiting for the bag of fun question of the night. Cameron, what do we got?
To listen, download the TuneIn app, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us on Twitter at Titletown_takes.
WMCK Merrimack College Radio Network. This is Titletown Takes, coming to you live from the fabulous WMCK studios here at the third floor of Cushing Hall. Ian Beauchesne joined alongside my co-hosts, as always, Connor Powell and Cameron Urbowicz. Glad you could all be with us here on another fabulous Wednesday, post-NHL trade deadline.
Oh, what a time it is.
What a time to be alive.
Yep,
Saw some pretty big names moved out there.
Sure.
On Monday afternoon before the 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time hit, and
We'll get into it.
we got a lot.
We got a lot to talk about.
lot to get into, but we're not going to waste any time. As always, we're going to start off with the Merrimack Minute, the latest and greatest for all things Merrimack College Warrior athletic related, and we're going to start on the hardwood court. The men's basketball team will look to become the second team here on campus to capture an NEC regular season title when they take on Central Connecticut State at Hamel Court tomorrow night as part of senior night. Now, a win for the Warriors will secure them at least a share of the regular season title.
With who?
With St. Francis. St. Francis is the only other team that has a possibility to grab a share of the regular season title.
Got it.
If St. Francis loses either one of its final two games, the Warriors will grab the NEC regular season title for their own.
Oof.
So they will take part in senior night tomorrow night, as I mentioned before, taking on the Blue Devils from Central Connecticut State. The team will honor Javaris Hayes, who, with his first steal in Sunday's game down at Mount St. Mary's, set the all-time steals record across all three divisions in NCAA basketball.
Not a big deal.
They will also honor sharpshooter Jaleel Lord and defensive machine and offensive foul creator Idris Joyner. The three seniors are part of the winningest class in program history as they enter Thursday with 80 W's under their belt. They're also part of the 3 Division II berths the program has had in the last 3 years, and an NEC tournament championship last March after beating New Haven. So be sure to arrive to Hamel early to be part of the senior night festivities. Again, tip-off is set for 7 o'clock. Senior night festivities roughly about 10 minutes prior to tip. On the women's side of things, the women's basketball team will honor its senior class on Saturday afternoon in the final home game against Central Connecticut State as well. That tip-off is set for 1 o'clock. They enter the weekend 18-9 overall, 11-5 in NEC play. Emily Houle, Alyssa Torres, Julia Orlando, and Styx Davis Stewart are the members of the class of 2020 for the women's basketball team. On the ice sheet, the women's hockey team will welcome the number 3 Northeastern Huskies for the front end of a home-and-home series last weekend on Friday night in the final week of the 2019-20 schedule. Both nights finished with a 3-0 shutout at the hands of NU. Friday night was senior night as the second ever recruiting class was honored as goaltender Leah Christine Demers, forwards Michaela Grant-Mentis and Kate Bakolska, as well as defenseman Chloe Cook, were all recognized after their final home game. I want to send out a congratulations to the 4 of them as they move on and wish them the best of luck in all their future endeavors. On the men's side of things, the men's hockey team broke out the brooms this past weekend Despite being eliminated from playoff contention the week before, they picked up a 2-0 road shutout and a 3-2 come-from-behind win on home ice Saturday in the final games at Lawler as they swept the Providence College Friars last weekend. Tyler Drevich, Tyler Irvine, Pat Kramer, Griff Jeska, and Sammy Tavernier, along with their family and friends, were welcomed onto the ice before puck drop, and everyone was treated to a fantastic game. The boys have one final game left on their schedule tomorrow when they head down to Kelly Rink at Conti Forum to take on Boston College for the third time in the span of 13 days.
It's a lot.
This Boston College team coming off a 10-goal outburst against Northeastern on Friday night. So here's hoping that BC used up all their goals on Friday night and, carry a little mojo in tomorrow night.
R.I.P. Craig Pantano.
Oh, man. That was something.
The thing was, he wasn't even in there for the most of them either. I mean, he got pulled after 4. The guy came in behind him. Kim, was it you that told me about this?
Yeah, he gave up 5, and then they put the third goalie in, and he gave up 1.
Yeah.
Just
So blame all on a bad night to be a Husky goaltender.
Bad night at the office for everybody.
The men's lacrosse program has picked up its first win at the Division I level after this weekend. They went out to Ann Arbor, Michigan to take on the University of Michigan, and they defeated the Wolverines by a final of 14-12 on Saturday afternoon. Charlie Bertrand had 5 goals of his own, and Sean Black tallied 4 markers himself. Again, that was the first Division I win of the season for the men's lacrosse program, and what turned out to be the first of a few wins for Merrimack programs against schools from the Mitten out in Michigan.
Oh, yeah.
The boys will head up to the University of Vermont on Saturday, 12 o'clock face-off. They'll look to get back-to-back wins under their belt and improve on that win last week out in Ann Arbor. The baseball boys, 3 wins against the Michigan State Spartans for the fellas last weekend, including a sweep of the Saturday doubleheader. It started off on Friday with a 9-6 win in 11 innings, followed by 3-1 and 7-5 victories on Saturday to secure the series win. They are 5-3 in the win-loss columns, and this weekend they will travel back down to Spartanburg, South Carolina, travel back down to the Palmetto State, this time to Spartanburg, as last weekend they were in Greenville, South Carolina to take on Michigan State. This weekend they will be in Spartanburg to take on the Terriers from Wofford. Friday afternoon, 3 o'clock, Saturday at noon, and Saturday at 1, Sunday at noon. Quite an eventful week here on campus, but that has been your Merrimack Minute. Fellas, any opening thoughts on things that have gone on here in the course of the last week since we were last on air?
Well, first of all, Ian, as always, fantastic job with the Merrimack Minute. It's not easy to get all this information out to the people at home, and you bring it to them every single week, so well done.
Thank you.
But, to go off basically everything you said, what a time to be a Warrior right now.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. It's great. Athletics-wise, and it's just great.
I mean, we've talked about it repeatedly here, and it's, the big questions last September, or 2 Septembers ago, I should say, the big thing was, okay, we're moving D1. How's that gonna work out?
Right.
I think it's working out pretty swell, if you ask me.
If you're Jeremy Gibson and President Hopi, you got to be feeling real good right now. Cameron?
I think it's definitely an exciting time. The only unfortunate part is that the men's basketball team can't participate in any NCAA tournaments like the obviously March Madness, NIT. They also can't get into. But
they did accept an invitation to, I can't remember whether it was the CBI or the CIT, so they are going to play in some postseason tournament.
Right.
But hopefully we could bring that trophy home and, show the NCAA that, this isn't hopefully not a one-year thing and that we're here to stay and we're going to be competitive regardless of restrictions or not. And shout out to the men's hockey team for winning their last game on home ice. It was a hard-fought game. Colburn stood on his head.
Yep.
What was it, 39 saves?
Yeah.
And
No, I believe it was 41.
41?
Yeah, 41.
Even better.
Yeah.
Stood on his head, and then everyone did their job, and just an all-around great way to go out, especially with the crowd the way it was as well.
Right.
Yeah, the couple of them, I was both Tyler's and Sammy. I guess Griff didn't get the memo. They kind of took a last lap around.
Yep, victory lap.
Yeah, it was good to see them.
Yeah, I'm happy they did that.
You know, obviously, last couple of years certainly haven't been ideal for them, but good to see them. Go out in style and pick up a win in their final game at Lawler.
Yeah.
What do you think? Break time and
Break
then
time. We'll bring in our special guest.
Bring in a special guest. We'll let you introduce him on the other side of the break. When we come back, we got a lot of hockey talk tonight here, so I hope everyone's ready to put on your bucket and get going. But post trade deadline, we'll talk all across the NHL. We'll talk about the Bruins here, who have now lost 2 in a row after a tough one last night, I guess you could say. We'll get into whether or not you could kind of consider it a scheduled loss or not. And then, as always, we got the latest USCHO poll and a look at the Pairwise rankings as we get down to the nitty-gritty of the regular season in college hockey. We will be back after this. This is Titletown Takes here on WMCK Merrimack College.
Titletown Takes live from the WMCK studios here at Merrimack College, second floor of Cushing Hall. Thank you guys for tuning in. We have a very special guest alongside co-hosts Ian Beauchesne and Cameron Urbowicz. My name is Connor Powell. Special guest Mark Bilotta joining us today from Neutral Zone, Massachusetts Scouting for hockey. Also a good friend from the Merrimack College ice hockey team. He does replay for us over there at Lawler Rink.
He makes his home up in the little corner.
Yeah, so him and Cam have found a little comfortable spot over there in the press box. So, Mark, thank you for joining us and welcome.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, fellas. This is great.
Yeah,
great stuff.
Nice little setup. So we, just trying to expand, give people more thoughts than our 3 knucklehead ideas.
Right. Some more professional
Yeah,
thoughts.
exactly.
Let's be fair. I have enough knucklehead ideas for the both of you.
Yes, you do. So yeah,
and a bunch of knucklehead takes too as well.
Yeah,
Let's
get into
not
that.
forget that one.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, Mark. We won't waste any time over here. You do a lot of scouting at the high school level through Neutral Zone. Can you just first tell us how Neutral Zone started and how you guys got to doing that?
Absolutely. So, just getting started with where Neutral Zone came from and how it originated. So, it started out in Rutland, Vermont, actually, and that's where our organization is based. And we have scouts pretty much all across North America. We have about, if I remember correctly, I think it's at around 70 all told between all of the folks that we work with, in each of the individual regions for different places around Canada, as well as some other areas around North America, like around Minnesota, New England, the Western states, and now we're starting to slowly expand into Europe as well with Sweden, Finland, and those areas also. But in terms of the way that we started, there were a couple of players out there in the space in terms of hockey scouting, and they had been there for years, but there really hadn't been a lot of adaptation change. There hadn't been a lot of real growth in the area, and the primary issue that we're trying to solve is the fact that a lot of college coaches, junior coaches, and professional scouts for NHL teams didn't really have one place that they could go to get all of this information. If you think about sports like basketball, football, and even soccer, they have, scout.com, or they have rivals.com, or they have an ESPN top 100, top 300 list. So that all is pretty common for, bigger sports. But what we're trying to solve for is, hey, we have qualified people that we can bring together, and we can let a lot of other folks know, hey, we've seen all of these kids across North America. We've seen a lot of these European players, and we can rank them, and we can tell you within a 1 to 5 star rating system how well they're going to do.
Yeah.
And we can project out all that info. So that's pretty much, we got this thing kicked off pretty much in late 2015 and 2016, and we've been just going full throttle ever since then for the most part.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And like you said, you started in 2015, and you guys are really starting to kick off now. Can you just talk about, just a little bit of the growth of Neutral Zone and how it started and when, how long it took to get where you guys are now?
Yeah, no, and there's been a lot of organic growth that's taken place over the last 3 years and into the fourth year now. The big thing is that, we started out and it was a lot of just getting our name out there. People had to understand who we were, what we did. People saw us with jackets but didn't know what it actually meant when we had Neutral Zone on our jackets.
Sure.
So, we had to make a name for ourselves, and we also did a lot of, groundswell kind of work where we talked to NHL scouts. We were talking to folks who were running different teams between prep teams, high school teams, and different organizations for junior teams, just letting everyone know who we were. And, organically, we just kind of grew that following. And especially in the Massachusetts area where a lot of people know our coverage because a lot of our scouts for New England are all based out here. We became known for a lot of things like New England prep coverage. And now we're in our second year of Massachusetts high school coverage. We started out just covering all of North America. We wanted to cover the primary regions like Ontario and Quebec and, as well as like areas for the WHL in like Western Canada and British Columbia for Canada. And then the major U.S. populous areas, so Minnesota, New England, and a lot of the other individual regions, and we would attend national camps and things like that. But now we've expanded to coverage of individual, the prep league, and we've done coverage of Mass High School for 2 years. And, that stuff has really grown organically because before us, for prep hockey in particular, there was literally no way that you could get any information about prep players. Literally none.
So this is really pretty revolutionary.
In a lot of ways it is because we're all about the freedom of information. Like, there's no reason why fans should not have the ability to go and read the statistics of players in this league.
Right.
For example, Merrimack's recruit Alex Jeffries. Under the previous system, you would have no idea how many games he had played in, what points he had scored. You wouldn't have known anything. Any of the game results, nothing.
Interesting.
But now you not only have access to his stats, but you have the box scores. You can literally track how many goals he scored across each game and against who. So it's totally different.
Which brings up a good point is when you and I were at Lalarenko earlier this year, and we just, I had to work on something for a class and was interviewing, and there was a game going on at the same time. And we found a player that you and I both noticed.
Yep.
And we were able to look him up and find all his stats and see where he was from and see where he played and stuff like that. So that's something you say you weren't able to do 5 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's a little bit different for being able to look up players, but it's one thing for prep because prep was a very finite system where there was only one website where you could go to access that information, and you had to pay to get in. So that was the primary difference. It was called USHR, and around this region since like pretty much the 70s and the 80s, they've pretty much run the show out here, and they are the only people that were covering prep games. And now with Neutral Zone out there and putting out a free site that gives you access to that information, it completely changes everything. But if you're talking about sites like Elite Prospects, for example, that has led to a lot more freedom of information, and you've got a lot more access to information about these kids where it just wouldn't exist even 5 to 10 years ago. So that's totally true.
Do you think, Mark, that maybe with more kids kind of opting to go to the junior route now as opposed to going right from youth hockey levels, and you grow up, you do your squirt, you pee, whatever level, you do your basic youth hockey levels across the board, and then you kind of split your time once you get to high school. It used to be you do half a season of bantams and then you're gone to go play high school hockey. Do you think that with more people opting to just skip the high school aspect of it and go to prep, that kind of gives you guys a little bit more room to succeed and become a little bit more marketable out there? Because, you can go to all these prep school games, you can go to the prep school tournaments, and people see your name, they see your logo. Does it give you a chance to kind of expand and become bigger?
That's a really, really good question, because there are a lot of parents who are asking the exact same questions.
Really?
Because the main question that a lot of parents will ask, especially because they know that we're in the rinks and we see a lot of players who are the same age as their son, and a lot of things that they'll come up and ask is, should Johnny go? Should he go to prep, or should Johnny go to juniors, or should Johnny stay in high school? We don't know what to do with Johnny. Let Johnny make Johnny's decisions for Johnny. I think that's really the main tenet here. Yeah. So, it's less about living vicariously through your own son, and I think it's a little bit more about making sure that the path that he's chosen is one that he's most comfortable with. Is he playing with his friends? Is he having fun?
Right.
Is he taking time to develop his own skill set as opposed to spending time and playing, and by the way, there's nothing wrong with any of the major routes. So high school hockey, prep hockey, or junior. There's nothing wrong with any of those routes, and all three of them can lead to colleges, major juniors.
They can all lead to the same kind of success.
Whatever your cup of tea is.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. And I think the biggest misnomer out there, and to finally answer your question, I think the biggest misnomer out there is the fact that everyone just assumes that, oh, you've made it once you've left high school and you go to prep or you go to junior.
Yeah.
That is not the case.
I think
Not even close.
No.
I think once you leave high school and you go to prep, whatever, that's where it becomes.
That's where you get started.
Yeah, it becomes twice.
start.
It becomes twice as hard because
Exactly.
You might not be spending as much time in the classroom anymore. In the time that you're taken away from the classroom, it's going to be time that you're on the ice.
Right.
And you're working on your edge work. You're working on hands. You're working on being able to maneuver in and out of the corners.
Sure.
Being able to read plays before they even happen.
Exactly. And it's also, you also have to be smart about your own development too. So think of it this way. So here's a really good example. There are some prep teams, just as an example, there are some prep teams that literally will overbook, if you will. They'll bring on more kids than they know they can play. For example, I've attended some games where literally the game is going on between the home prep team and another team, and there are about 7 or 8 kids who are also on the team who can't fit on the bench that are skating in the other rink because they literally have nowhere to go. They have nothing else they can do.
What?
Wow.
So this is a reality. These are things that happen. So you have to ask yourself when you're looking to move into a prep, a junior situation, does this really benefit me?
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
can I actually gain anything from
Because
this?
you don't want to be the kid skating on the other rink.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Is it going to lead to sufficient ice time to allow you to become better?
grow.
And
Correct.
get you to a point where get noticed by guys like you who go to these games, in colleges or other junior programs, whatever. They value opinions and exactly. You want to be able to go to a spot where you're going to grow not only as a person but as a player, more importantly, if you want to move on.
Exactly. And one thing that we're actually seeing in a trend in terms of Mass High School, just as an example, one thing we're starting to see as a trend is there are some junior players that are actually coming back to Mass High School, whereas the boomerang effect previously was, I'm good enough so I don't have to play here and I'll go to juniors or prep.
Really?
But
That's
now,
super interesting.
So now, and this is interesting because I can just, off the top of my head, so David Bazili is a really good example who's playing for Malden Catholic this year.
Yeah.
He was with the Islanders who play here out of Merrimack. He left there and now he's playing for Malden Catholic. So he went back to high school. There are other players I can think of, like Jake Marini, who's playing for Bill Ricca. He was previously in a junior organization. He's now playing public high school.
Yeah.
Tom Barbotti, who's playing now for Tewksbury. He was previously at the Selects Academy, which is a very exclusive team down in Connecticut. So that's actually, the boomerang effect is actually starting now, which is a really interesting thing.
That's good to see for high school hockey, especially here. People love their high school hockey.
Yeah.
Yep, no doubt about it.
Yeah. Well, let's save that thought for the other side of the break. When we come back, Mark will hang out with us. He said he's free for the rest of the night, so it's up to him whether he gets sick and tired of us or if he has other plans come across his radar. But we'll be back. We're going to talk Super 8, Mass High School Hockey Super 8's currently going on. We've already had one upset in the tournament tonight. The USCHO poll and plenty of NHL trade deadline stuff from Monday afternoon. We'll be back after this. This is WMCK Merrimack College Radio Network, Titletown
Takes live from the WMCK studios here at Merrimack College. Connor Powell alongside co-hosts Ian Beauchesne and Cameron Urbowicz and special guest Mark Bilotta from Neutral Zone. We're going to start this break off with a little PSA. Community engagement PSA. Welcome, refugee families. There are nearly 20 million refugees worldwide, fleeing terror, war, violence, and political and religious persecution. In the last 10 years, 60% of refugees admitted to permanently resettle in the U.S. have been women and children, passing through multiple levels of rigorous screening and security clearance. They want what we all want: peace, security, and freedom from fear. Refugees are survivors, families, and no different from us. It's time we welcome refugee families with open arms. Learn more at embracerefugees.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council. And there you go.
Very nicely done there,
Thank
Mr.
you.
PSA, man.
No flubs there. Usually I'll get a flub or two in a PSA, but we nailed that one. We're on it tonight, folks.
Let me know when you can get to the level of me with my welcome at the rink.
I don't see. Here's the difference. Here's the difference, Ian. Is you get paid to do it. I don't.
Very true. Very true. All right, as Connor mentioned, we're joined by Neutral Zone's Mark Bilotta. Mark, high school hockey's
It's kicking off.
well, it's been kicked off for a while, but it's playoff season.
Yes.
Obviously, the big thing in
Especially around
Massachusetts
here.
Division I, anyways, is a Super 8. We were talking beforehand. You made mention of an upset. You want to just give us a
Give us some details.
couple updates on what's going on here so far tonight?
Yeah, so the Super 8 field is they start out with, for those who don't know, the Super 8 field starts out with 10 teams, ironically, but
It's like the Big 12.
Yeah, right.
right, or the Pac-10, exactly.
Yeah.
So they start out with 10 teams, and there are 2 play-in games. So the 2 play-in games happened a few days ago, where the top 2 seeds, the 7 and the 8, beat the 9 and the 10. So Burlington, they ended up taking down Hingham, and then Framingham ended up taking down Reading. So moving on to tonight's games, St. John's Prep is playing Xaverian. St. John's Prep being the 4 seed and Xaverian being the 5. So St. John's Prep ended up winning that first game by a final score of 2-1. So that game literally just went final about maybe 30 or so minutes ago. And then there is a second game that is taking place momentarily. So if I recall correctly, I believe it's BC High taking on Burlington is the second game.
Boo, BC High. Boo.
All right, there, Mr. CM.
All right,
Calm
the
yourself.
CM superfan. But yeah,
right.
so we're waiting on results for those games too. So we shall see.
Great. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I grew up going. I mean, my dad used to. He went to Methuen High. He played hockey there for a couple of years, and then unfortunately, his senior year, he wasn't able to join due to health reasons for the varsity roster. So he was kind of a team manager. But I mean, he
I
grew
would
up.
have made the league if I didn't damn
He
my
grew.
knee
He
up.
grew up in the time where the Super 8 was. That was
Yeah.
that was what everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody cared about. My grandfather went to Central Catholic, so he's certainly familiar with the whole Super 8 there, being a member of that school. I mean, not only
Yep.
that, but basketball as well. He's a
Yep.
big Central basketball guy,
Oh, yeah.
So, unfortunately, I didn't get the chance to experience Super 8 in high school. My high school was a co-op team with Amesbury, but
Oh, that's funny. My high school was also a co-op team, and it was in the state of New Hampshire. So
Okay.
a double whammy there. I didn't
Yeah.
get to take in the Super 8, so this is
yeah.
it's pretty much all a new experience, which is a lot of fun.
My high
What-
school was also garbage, and then they teamed up with Billerica
Man.
for a little bit.
I'm on an island over here.
Well, they were good, and then they just stopped being good.
Yeah, well, that's also what you get for going to a
Private school.
Private school.
Yeah.
Okay.
So all three of my both of my brothers went to CM. My brother went to CM from what was it, 04 to 08, and CM had some real good teams there.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
were
they were
wagons
good.
back then.
They were
yeah.
good.
TJ O'Brien was on one of those teams, and he was supposed to be really good, but then he had a bunch of personal problems that kept him from going any further. But I remember going to games when I was like 7 or 8 years old at the Garden. CM was playing. I think who'd they beat the first time? I think it might have been the Prep. They beat
Possibly.
or somebody. But then I remember they played Hingham, and Hingham's
Humberman.
goalie, I forget what his name, but he had like 40-something saves, and
Yeah.
they shut out CM.
Yep, that was big news
Big,
for
like,
a public school to beat CM.
All of
Yeah.
Hingham was there.
That was
and
huge.
especially that was
Oh,
like
I'm sure.
And
All I
that's one of the most fun things about this. I remember a few years ago in 2017 when Walpole ended up making the field of 10.
Was that Corcoran?
That was Corcoran.
in.
That was Corcoran's
Yeah.
team. So he was one of the best goalies in Mass High School that season. And there was a lot of rancor about people saying, "Oh, they didn't face anybody. They don't deserve to be in this
Yeah.
field. This, that, and the other." So and they played who else? CM.
His ex-team.
Yep. So
Yep.
they played CM in that season, and
That was a play-in game.
that was
correct?
a play-in game at the
Yeah.
Chelmsford Forum, and they won it in
Tully.
overtime.
Yeah, that was a hell of a game. I remember
Great
watching
game.
that.
Great game.
That was a
And
crazy game.
I just remember that game because I was sitting in the end zone and I took video of the celebration afterwards, and Corcoran went up and slammed the glass, and
Yeah.
literally hundreds of kids came streaming down onto the other end of the boards, and that thing ended up going like partially viral. I ended up getting like 30,000 or 20,000
Whoa.
hits on that thing.
That's crazy.
John Beauchesne retweeted it, so
Yeah.
it was legit. It was legit.
Man, high school hockey's the best.
Oh, it's great.
Unfortunately, CM wasn't that good hockey while I was at CM.
Yeah.
But
They were
the basketball
full-
team
Well,
didn't lose a game at home in my 4 years there.
That's
Nice.
unreal.
They're pretty good.
That's unreal.
Pretty
My
good.
high school's wrestling team went in and kicked the crap out of your high school's
Yeah, wrestling
team.
was big
You know
down
what?
at
Take
Chelmsford
take
High.
your wrestling. Take it. Actually, we were pretty good at wrestling though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
So
saying.
that's-
My
that's
high
it.
school came in and beat the crap out of your school wrestling program, and you guys are pretty good.
I'll take my basketball and hockey. You
High
can have your
school, high
wrestling.
school wrestling was really the big thing. Coach Bruce Rich was the coach for like 40 years or something. He was really good.
Yeah,
he was also the
at
football coach
Chelmsford,
as
right?
well at Chelmsford.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, one of my favorite CM memories is the two Frozen Fenways they played, and they played
Yeah, that's
one
right.
while I
Yes.
was there, and then they played BC High again my freshman year, or maybe my sophomore year.
Here, right? It was just a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and I went to that game, and it was an unbelievable game. CM scored with like it was like under a minute left or something to beat BC High at Fenway, and it was awesome because the first time we played them at Fenway, we lost like 4-1 or something. We got whooped. But that we came back, and we had a pretty good team that year, and we beat BC High, and I remember BC High was pretty good then too. So that was pretty good. The CM-BC High rivalry still gets
It's
me
fun.
going, still gets
It's-
the juices going.
It's fun.
Oh man, who knows? Hopefully we'll get that in the Super 8 this year. That'd be pretty cool.
Could happen.
Yeah.
Could happen. Especially the way they do the tournament a little bit differently, where it's double elimination,
Right.
Versus before it was a best of 3 in the
Yep.
in the opening sets of games. But
Is that how they do it now? So,
Yeah, it's double elimination.
Zavarian and the Prep played,
yep,
so they won't play each other again.
correct.
So okay, I like that
So-
better. I think.
Yeah,
So,
'cause
yeah.
Zavarian will go to the losers bracket, and Zavarian will play out of the winner's set.
I like that.
So it's other way around. So St. John's Prep will play out of the winners bracket.
Oh,
Zavarian
sorry,
will
that's
go
right,
into
sorry.
the losers bracket.
Because
Yep.
that can create a lot more like you're going to see more Cinderella stories happening that way. Because like if a bottom seed matched up against a Pope Francis or something like that, you're kind of screwed. If you're in a 3-game series, that's a lot more hard to do.
Yeah, it's tougher, and that was one thing because that same Walpole team they had to play BC High in a best of 3 series.
Yep.
They ended up winning one of them, and they stretched it to a 3-gamer. But in that scenario, it's tough to beat BC High twice.
Yeah,
you can do it once, but it's tough to do it twice.
My favorite high school memory, which I'll shut up about high school hockey after this. In my memories,
'cause we're moving on to college
It was CM BC High 3-game set at Stoneham Arena. BC High beat us the first game, and then we went down in the second game, tied it late, and then the shootout. They went up 2-0 in the shootout. Our final 2 scores needed to score, so they scored to tie it, and then it was like 4 rounds after that. And then one of my buddies, Tim Weinstein, scored to bring it to the 3rd game, and then Liam Coughlin scored in the 3rd game.
Liam Coughlin was
Late.
real good.
So good. That CM team was super good. They lost to Malden Catholic with Aaron Nazarian and all that.
and that team was really good.
Yep.
That Malden Catholic dynasty was no
No
joke.
joke.
Yeah,
They
it
were
was-
so good. We couldn't get away from them.
Look at how many of them went on to play in Hockey East.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like
A lot.
Matt Philippe is still doing it down in
Yep.
Northeastern. I mean, those teams were real good.
I couldn't get away from Aaron Nazarian.
Yep.
I watched him destroy CM, and then him at UNH
Yeah.
came here and
So-
destroyed us too.
Little bit of a history lesson. Do you know who built that Malden Catholic dynasty that won all of those championships? He has a tie here to Merrimack.
Yeah, what's his
Really?
name? John.
No,
Or no,
Who?
Serino, former coach here at Merrimack and former athletic director.
Really?
So he was the athletic director and the head coach, Chris Serino, and he ended up leaving here in I think it was 2005. 2004, 2005, right around there. That's when Mark Dennehy came in and became head coach.
Got it.
So when he left, he went to Malden Catholic, and that's where the hockey program started to take off.
He built that.
And he built that, and that's where it really started to get going, and they started winning multiple championships in a row.
Wow, that's awesome. That's cool.
So a Merrimack connection right there.
Yeah,
you
sweet.
go.
Sweet.
All right.
Before we
Slide
switch
it over.
gears, Mark, I mentioned it to you out there. Do you have any thoughts on Hopkinton? Have you seen them play at all?
I have, yeah. And, Hopkinton this year, so last year they had a great team, playoff run. They did pretty well. This year, they're pretty dangerous. I mean, they might be the best D3 team in the state. You could make an argument for that.
Wow.
And I think, honestly, so they have a freshman named Pavit Mera who is just absolutely filthy. Great hands. He's a little bowling ball, but man, that kid can play.
Yeah.
So he's really good. And they have a senior who our NHL correspondent, Ian Moran, absolutely loves. And I've seen him play, and he's pretty good too. Sean Walsh. He's a senior graduating this year, and he is just lightning. He can flat out move.
What position?
Forward.
Okay.
He can really move. So that
makes a difference in high school too.
yeah, because he can fly, and at the D3 level, not many kids can stay with him.
Wow.
So they could go on a run, but
as you know, in the playoffs with single elimination in those rounds, that is no joke. So like
Anybody
you can
can
get
beat
taken
anybody.
down.
They are 19-1 for a reason, though. So
Yeah, they're
that's
good.
something.
They're real good.
All right, it's time to take a look at this week's USCHO poll. The poll was released on Monday, as it is every week. This is the week of February 24th. We'll take a look at those just sitting on the outside here, and obviously, Mark, living in New England, we're going to have an eye on the Hockey East teams, but for those listening in, just listen to see how many Hockey East schools you hear, not only on the outside looking in, but throughout the top 20 as well. UNH sits on the outside along with Northern Michigan, Nebraska Omaha, Michigan State, UConn, Bowling Green, Michigan, Sacred Heart, not a hockey school, but still New England based as well. St. Cloud, Harvard, and Notre Dame are just sitting on the outside looking in. Now on to this week's poll. The most recent addition to the top 20 after clinching yet again another Atlantic Hockey regular season championship, the AIC Yellow Jackets. They come in at number 20. Followed by a team that was here this weekend.
Got swept.
Providence falls from 15 down to 19, and we'll get into more Hockey East talk after this. But, I mean, Providence is a team that's in real danger of not only missing the Hockey East tournament, but let alone you look back 3 weeks ago, and this was a team that was in the top 10 of the
Almost
Pairwise.
out of the tournament and still ranked 19.
Yeah.
That just tells you the parity we have right now. At least
Hockey East,
very. I wouldn't even say it's top heavy. I'd just say everything's kind of rotating and falling in place.
Everybody
Because Maine was out of it, and now they're in the thick of everything.
They're in third place.
Yeah.
Right.
That's because they have one loss at home at the Alfond all year, which has been one of the greatest.
They've had a ton of home games on the second half.
Minnesota comes in at number 18. They do not move after last week's result. Quinnipiac drops a spot to 17 after coming in at 16 last week. Western Michigan makes a little bit of a jump from 19 up to 16. Maine jumps up a pair of spots from 17 to 15. Arizona State with what is probably the biggest drop this week in the ranks. They fall from number 9 down to 14. Northeastern drops a number of spots too after getting swept by Boston College. They fall from 10 down to 13. UMass Lowell, after split with UMass Amherst, jumps up a pair from 14 to 12. Bemidji State as well. They've just been climbing slowly and quietly the last couple of weeks. Now they sit at 11.
Go Beavers.
After last weekend's results. Ohio State, another team that's jumped up a couple of spots. They've moved up from 12 to 10. Penn State jumps up a pair as well from 11th to 9th. UMass surprisingly stays put. I'm a little shocked about that. I mean, I know we saw Lowell jump up in the rankings, but I mean, I know there was some movement up in the top that we'll get to in a minute here, but I don't know why UMass didn't get any love from the voters as far as what went on there.
They're nowhere near as flashy as they were last year. They had all the names last year. They had Makar, they had Ferraro, they had they got
Leonard. They got Leonard this year. He's been playing pretty well for them.
Yeah, but they had the angle last year. They had Cale Makar's the best player in college hockey, and that's why they got so many more votes. I mean, they're 19-10-2. That's a good record.
Also, the polls have been a little skewed this year, at least recently. With it was UMass Lowell a couple of weeks ago. I remember they beat us, and then they won against somebody else, and they dropped the spot.
Yeah,
that's true.
The night before they went down to Boston College.
Yeah,
beat BC down there 3-2.
And dropped the spot. That's right.
And they still dropped the spot that following Monday. So
good point.
Another thing I want to bring up between UMass and UMass Lowell, I love how UMass fans are out there trying to say that they're the flagship association between the two schools, and I think they maybe have 4 wins against Lowell in hockey the last
I think it was
6,
20
7, 8 years.
I think it's 20 tries. They've only beaten them 4 times.
It's insane. They try
try
to claim that they're the big brother in the relationship, but the last few years have just been so lopsided that it's
North's
not even
got their
funny.
number.
Yeah. Clarkson falls a pair. The Golden Knights fall from number 5 to number 7. Denver jumps up a spot from 7 to 6. Minnesota Duluth drops a spot from 4 to 5. Boston College jumps up a pair after the impressive weekend they had against Northeastern. They stand at number 4. North Dakota falls from number 1 to number 3. Minnesota State jumps up from number 3 to number 2, and the number 1 team in the country receiving 27 out of the 50 votes this week. Cornell, the Big Red, as we have the number 1 team in both the men's and women's side of the polls for the first time since 2014.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I saw
21
that.
2-4 is their record.
Yeah.
21-2-4.
They have some pretty impressive wins on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. It's not
They went out to Las Vegas and beat Arizona State and Providence to win the Battle of the Fortress out there in T-Mobile Arena.
I'd love to get out there and see that.
So, I mean, that's a Cornell team that's been playing. Obviously, we talk about 21-2-4. It's a pretty good record.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
But,
Pretty
I
good.
mean, I'm more interested to see what happens when playoff time comes around. Because, I mean,
Exactly.
the last couple of years they've done this. They've been up in the top 5, top 10 of the polls every week. But when the playoff time comes around, last year they bowed out to. Last year they got to a win within the Frozen Four because they beat Northeastern down in Providence in the first round of the regionals last year. So I mean, taking a look at that, Mark, what are just some of your general thoughts here as we come down the stretch of the college hockey regular season?
Well, I think the biggest thing is just taking a look at Cornell. Obviously, they have a really impressive record, but a lot of it is due in large part to both the style that they play and how great of goaltending that they've gotten this year. Their goaltending is some of the best in college hockey, and by a lot of metrics, it's not even close. So I think that's one really big key there. And the other thing is, it's kind of funny if you look at the pattern of recruitment for Cornell over the last 5 to 10 years. They pretty much recruit football players. Those kids are huge. If you're under 6 feet, you do not get recruited there. It's pretty much how it goes.
They've got big in the name, so they got to live up to
Yeah,
that.
they've got to live up to it. It's not Little Red. No,
No.
yeah, they have to. Yeah, they have to live up to the name. But they are a really legit team this year. Now the trap is for them the ECAC playoffs because you've got a lot of challengers coming up. Harvard is going to be tough for them to beat. They're going to have a lot of teams. Clarkson will be tough for them to beat. They've got a lot of really good teams going and trying to capture that crown. So they're going to have their hands full.
I mean, you talk about their goaltending. They've got 2 juniors. Austin McGrath, he's played 1 game. He's got a shutout. I think he might have come in relief. Because he doesn't have a win or a loss to his record. So.
Well, if you look at who's played the most, it's Matt Galaja, who has 21. He has 21 wins this year, which is 3rd in the country.
I'm more interested in his goals against average, 1.63.
I mean, if you're into that kind of thing,
Average of the team is 1.61 as well.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
which is second best in the country behind Minnesota State.
Who's the number 2 team in the country?
Yeah, I mean, they play good defense. They're big. They're physical.
Yeah.
They do a lot of things well, and that's one of the reasons why they're the number 1 team. But the other thing too is, I feel like there are a lot of people who are sleeping on how good North Dakota is this year.
Oh my God!
I don't know if anybody really realizes how good they actually are. Especially, you saw some of the performances that their guys had during the World Juniors.
World Juniors, yeah.
Oh boy! Pinto was a man-child.
Oh.
He was good. So you get into the playoffs.
Except in the game that the
one that
US
mattered.
really needed him, right? Yeah,
exactly. When everybody just kind of fell apart
Yeah,
there.
the whole team was flat that day.
But I mean,
Yeah.
I think the thing about North Dakota is they're doing it quietly.
Yeah, very much so.
They don't have the star-studded lineups like with the Taves and McCain or the Kajulas. They don't have really the big name star on their team.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is it's very much a team for team's sake. Like there are a lot of guys that contribute on that roster, and it's not one guy who's leading you with 80 points. You have a bunch of kids that can all contribute and all do things well. And they have always found ways to move the puck. They have some of the best transition D in the country. They've always played that really fast style that really suits them well at the Engelstead. So that doesn't come as a huge surprise that they're as good as they are this year. But I'm going to be interested to see. I think they'll probably be the favorite in the NCHC. That shouldn't come as a surprise.
I would, yeah.
And now it's just a question of, A, can they polish that off and win that trophy and then move on to get like a 1 seed for the NCAA tournament? That's pretty much where their head has to be at this point because, I mean, they've done everything they need to do in the regular season.
Yeah. You ever been to the Ralph?
I've never have, actually.
No. Yeah. That's like, I've heard that's like the holy grail. That and line up at Cornell.
Yep.
Oddly enough, I heard those are two of the big spots to go catch a college hockey game at.
The last time, I could be wrong, but I think the last time Merrimack was out there was in it was in 2009, if I recall correctly. I think that's the last time Merrimack played out there.
Wow.
And that was Stefan DaCosta's freshman season for Merrimack.
He was a good year. That was a good season.
Yeah, it was
Yes,
decent.
it was.
That was the year before they went to the NCAAs.
Yeah.
In 09-10, he actually didn't get to play in those games at North Dakota because the NCAA held him back in the clearinghouse because he wasn't eligible.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then,
you told me this story.
Exactly. So he couldn't play in the first two games. He sat in the seats. Then he came back here and they played, I think it might have been like Holy Cross for the opener. And he was quiet. He didn't do very much offensively. I think he had some decent passes, and the thing that I remember is after the game, Dennehy basically said it's like Magic Johnson's first game in the NBA where he was passing the ball and breaking guys' noses.
Yeah.
Like his teammates didn't expect. Oh, the puck's coming. Okay.
Yeah, right.
So and then the second game came, and that was against Army. He scored 5 goals.
Yeah.
So he just lit the league up after that.
What are your thoughts here locally, anyways, on Hockey East? I mean, you look at the standings, and it's just a jumble. I guess it wouldn't be Hockey East if it wasn't like this going into the final couple of weeks of the regular season. But I mean, who's a team that you wouldn't be surprised to see at the end of the regular season, or heading into the playoffs, hosting a first round game? And then who's a team maybe to kind of keep an eye on here the last 2 weeks of the regular season?
So I would say that for me, it's literally 1 and 2. I love what BC has done this year. I think the biggest thing for them is they really needed an infusion, and the youth infusion they got this year of that really skilled 01 group, they pulled pretty much 2 or 3 of the best kids in that age group onto their team. And I mean, you can kind of see the results for themselves. Like they've had a great season so far. They've got much better goaltending this year. Their offense is better. Their defense is better. They're a complete team, and it's going to be really, really tough to knock them off. And I think UMass is also, they've had a pretty good season as well. Yeah. I think they haven't done it in obscurity. People know who they are, and they've been a contender all year. But, it's one thing that we were talking about earlier. It's not like it's the Cale Makar season. No. It's not the same team. They're still good, and they're still going to win a lot of games, but I don't know that they're necessarily the clear favorite the way they were last year. So I feel like they're going to have a home series. They're going to be pretty good in the playoffs, but they're going to have to keep an eye on, over their shoulder, because there are going to be a lot of other teams stacked up waiting to take them on.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it right behind them. I mean, Maine sits right behind them, a point behind with 25, and then UConn and Lowell are a win behind with 24. BU's 2 wins behind with 23. I mean, it's just it's a regular Hockey East year. And I mean, the other thing is, you look at it too, half of the conference is in the top 20 USCHO poll.
Yeah, it's interesting because in a lot of ways, if you go back and look at the way that this conference looked 10 years ago, just as an example, you'll see all the blue bloods at the top: BC, BU, and at the time UNH, Maine. Those were the blue bloods, and they were always the ones who were at the top, and everybody else vied for 5th and below. But that has changed so drastically, because the way that recruiting works has changed, and also because if you look at, the way that these teams are set up, they're building their teams differently. It's not, we have to wait for the scraps for, BC and BU when they get done. There's a lot more work that's being done by a lot more people in these administrations, and they're going out and finding players, and they're building teams a little bit differently, and they have a little bit more depth. They have goaltending now. They have a little bit more strength and size. So it's really interesting, because this year, pretty much every team in Hockey East has at least 10 losses, which is not the way that it used to be, because usually the BCs and the BUs, they would have single-digit losses, and that was pretty much a given. But this year, almost every team has double-digit losses. I
mean, the only ones that don't, you look at it, are BU, Lowell, UConn, Maine, UMass, and BC. So the 5, 6 at the top half of the standings. And I mean, you never know what's going to happen here over the course of the next 2 weeks. I mean, you look at it, 2 weeks from now, every team in there I just listed could have multiple double-digit losses.
Oh yeah, and on top of that, look at the overall record. So if you look at the overall record for those teams, literally one team does not have double-digit losses, and that's BC. Every other team has at least 10. Yeah. Like it's unbelievable the amount of parity that exists in this league, and a lot of it is because of the way the talent is identified now, the way that these teams are being built from the net out, the way that they're being built defensively. it's a very, very different league than it was 10 years ago. So it's really interesting to see all of these teams kind of come together, and it makes for a stronger league. But to answer your question from before, I feel like Northeastern has been kind of lying in wait all season. They have probably the most mobile decor in Hockey East, aside from maybe a BC or a UMass. They, I think, are going to be really dangerous come playoff time.
Pretty good goalie too.
Yep, decent goalie. They can score it. They can shoot it. They can do a lot of things. And I'll issue a hot take here first.
Oh, we love our hot takes.
I got a hot take for you fellas.
This, or this will end up in next week's intro. So you got to be careful.
Okay, hot take of the week right here. BU will lose in the first round.
Oh, I love that.
I love it. I am such an anti-BU guy. I love that.
Well, just compared to everything else in Hockey East, BU just isn't up to par with everybody this year.
I'll tell you what. The BU, they have a great team and great players on that team. The problem is that they have not played as a team all season, and that's the thing that's been really killer for them.
Do you think that comes from the top? Do you think they just haven't bought in with Coach O'Connell and what he's bringing to the table, or?
I don't know. I think it's just some of the attitudes on that team, like some of the personalities.
Okay. Agreed. I think it's 100% a personality thing, because if you think about it, and you're a kid who's a national team player, everything's been easy for you your entire career.
Right.
Yeah.
Now things are getting hard.
Hockey East is tough.
Exactly. You have to play hard. You have to try hard. You have to actually think through stuff. This is the first adversity that you're really facing as a player.
Very good point.
So this is a completely different thing where, especially as a freshman team, because they love building themselves teams of 18-year-olds,
right?
The best 18-year-olds in the country. Well, you're competing against guys who are as old as 25.
Especially here at Merrimack.
Exactly. But that was the only way that Merrimack could succeed at that point.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
if you didn't have if you didn't have 21-year-old freshmen, then you weren't going to compete.
Yeah, right.
So, that's back in the days when Chris Serino used to he would mail in tapes. He would literally ask for people to send him tapes of players because he wouldn't go out and actually scout kids. He would actually have the tapes sent to him, and that's how he would build teams. But the whole thing now is, with BU, they haven't played as a team all season, and there's been no cohesion there. That, I think, is going to come back to bite them in playoff time.
Yeah. Also, the Beanpot loss was also a bit of a kick in the groin a little bit, because
I love
they had that. Well, they had that questionable penalty call and whatever, and then they lost.
Yeah.
And then they beat UNH right after that, and then then they got swept by UConn.
Well, they lost big to us after that.
Mark,
too.
I don't
before, right before,
in between.
I don't think you truly understand how much of an anti-BU guy I am.
But 6-1 to UConn tells a pretty decent story, I'd like to say.
All right, we're up against our headline update here for the top of the hour. We'll be back after this.
Oh, wait, Ian, can we give a special shout out to UVM for getting us off the record books?
Thank you, UVM.
Yeah.
And what was it, 24
games.
24
Cheers.
now. Yep.
Cheers,
So,
UVM.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for getting us off the wrong side of history.
Connor's got your headline updates. We're back on the other side of the break. And when we come back, we're going to recap some of the mayhem that occurred on Monday afternoon in the NHL's trade deadline. A lot of guys being moved around, and some big names going to some big-name markets approaching the playoff push. We'll be back after this. This is Titletown Takes.
Titletown Takes headlines. Your Boston Bruins took part in 2 trades up until the trade deadline, dealing to receive wingers Andre Kasha in exchange for a first-round pick, Axel Anderson, and David Backes, and then also received winger Nick Ritchie in exchange for Dayton Heineman. With the roster set for a deep cup run, the Black and Gold will take on the Dallas Stars tomorrow night. The Boston Celtics took care of business last night against the Portland Trail Blazers across the country by a score of 118 to 106. The Green were led by Jason Tatum with 36 points and Jaylen Brown with 24 points. Keep an eye on those two as we get closer to playoff time in the NBA. On the Merrimack side of things, the men's basketball team are looking to capture the NEC regular season title down the stretch, and they will recognize their group of seniors, their group of record-breaking seniors, Javaris Hayes, Jaleel Lord, and Idris Joyner this weekend for senior night. Women's basketball will take on Southern Connecticut State University on Saturday before the men at 1 p.m. from Hamel Court. For their senior day, they will recognize seniors Emily Houle, Styx Davis-Stewart, Alyssa Torres, and Giuliana Orlando. The women's ice hockey team finished their season at Lala Rink on senior night this past weekend. They paid tribute to seniors Leia Christine Demare, Michaela Grant Mentis, Chloe Cook, and Kate Pekolska. Well done on great careers all throughout there. Men's ice hockey swept Providence this past weekend, 2-0 on Friday, 3-2 on Saturday. They recognized seniors Tyler Irvine, Patrick Kramer, Sammy Tavernier, and Titletown Takes guest Griff Jeska, and as well Titletown Takes guest Tyler Drevich. Well done for all those seniors, and you represented Merrimack extremely well. These are your Titletown Takes headlines. We'll be back after this.
WMCK Merrimack College Radio Network. Ian Beauchesne joined alongside Connor Powell, Cameron Urbowicz, and from the neutral zone, Mark Bilotta here at the WMCK studios. This is Titletown Takes. Monday, the unofficial holiday of the hockey season up in Canada. Trade deadline has now come and gone. What you see on your team is what you get for the next potentially, 4 months if your team makes it all the way to June?
If you're lucky.
Yeah. So if your team didn't do anything, I apologize and enjoy the remaining time you have left. Detroit and...
I don't think Detroit's enjoying their time at all.
No, they're
unless they're playing the Bruins.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah. Or Montreal.
Yeah.
So, Mark, let's start this before we go any further. I know you were born around here, and you've lived here your whole life. You're a Bruins fan?
I am a Bruins fan.
Okay, because we had Tyler Drevich
I
on
would
here
hope so.
before, and he's lived here most of his life. He's traveled because of his father, but he's a Red Wings fan.
Interesting.
Which is crazy. And we've had some guests on here who aren't Bruins fans.
Griff is a Penguins fan who grew up in Wisconsin. So
it's good to have a Bruins fan on for once.
It's kind of funny because I came into sports really late comparatively to because most kids when they're single digit they're watching sports with their parents or the whole thing. My parents never watched sports when I was a kid.
Wow.
So I pretty much got into it because of other people in my family who were watching. So I only started watching the Bruins in 95 and 96.
You know what? That's a funny story too, because when I was growing up, it was mostly baseball and football in my family.
Yep.
But my cousin, so it's my dad's brother, my cousin on that side, super into hockey. They're all super into hockey, and just growing up, and his love for the game spread to me for sure.
Totally.
So very similar for me as well. But good to have all Bruins fans in the house for once. I mean, we can put an asterisk next to Cameron.
Oh, come on.
But,
The asterisk comes and goes.
I
mean, we'll see where they are.
I said to Connor yesterday, I was sitting around the dorm yesterday.
He was good yesterday.
It wasn't yesterday. It was Monday after the deadline. I'd come back from class because I had class right after it ended. And I said, Connor, you know what? I'm going to be as positive as I can the last couple of months. Because
you know what I said to him?
Lord
I said,
knows
we'll see
I've
how
been
long
plenty
that
negative.
lasts.
So we'll see how that goes.
Maybe you need to go back to being negative, though, because they lost pretty
Oh,
bad
yeah.
last night.
I give it 24
game.
hours.
Oh, I watched that whole game.
And this is all since
Buzzer
you're being
to buzzer,
positive.
and that was
Cameron,
pretty
you gotta
bad.
maybe just be negative again. And
I give it
start winning.
24
We'll
hours. I'm
see.
telling
I mean,
you right
if you
now.
need me to be negative, you know I have no problem doing it.
But it can't be fake, though, because
Yeah, I know.
we know we can't.
That was like last
Yeah.
week. We were sitting down over at your house watching the Bruins on Friday night in Calgary, and all of a sudden he goes, "Oh, I feel like Calgary's going to score a cheap one here or whatever."
Boom.
Boom. Next thing you know, Calgary puts one on the back, and I'm like, "What are you doing?"
So can we get a placard that says "resident pessimist" and just put it right
absolutely.
here?
You know what? That's your birthday present this year.
All right.
Is a
We're gonna-
resident pessimist, Cameron Urbowicz.
Absolutely.
Oh, he's the most negative Bruins fan of all time.
I give it 24
It's
hours.
just-
And if the results
So-
tomorrow aren't positive, I bet you he's right back
So,
on the
Mark, the
whipping and moaning bandwagon.
Cliff notes on this whole thing that happens. I have a serious thing where I will say something about a sport, particularly hockey.
It's good.
And immediately things will flip where I'm immediately wrong, like the next day. There are a couple that come to mind. I was doing a fantasy hockey thing with a couple of friends of mine, and someone had released Carl Soderberg, and I'm like, oh, why did he ever have Carl Soderberg on his team at all? Next day, hat trick. They have the Enterprise Hat Trick Challenge on ESPN.com. They have Ryan Ellis on the thing, and I'm like, why have Ryan Ellis? He's never scored a hat trick. He scored 2 in the first period, 30 minutes after I said it. He didn't get it, but I was like,
Of course he
Really?
got
Of course
two.
he got 2 right away.
Yeah.
My favorite one, and we had it in the Open for the last couple of weeks, was Cam was taking Oklahoma over LSU in the first round of the college football playoff. That didn't exactly work out very well.
One more.
Joe Burrow would like a word.
Yeah, oh yeah.
One more.
Wait, was Cam the one talking about his small hands yesterday?
Oh, no. But there was, so the Bruins played Montreal December 1st, and I was there.
Oh, this is good.
And Backus had just come back in the lineup.
Oh.
And every time he touched the puck, I'm like, Backus, he sucks. Why is he out here? He scores the tying goal.
You're doing that the whole game, too.
And
so people
this
are
guy
around him.
sitting next to me, he's like, David Backus rules. How dare you say that? And I'm like, of course it was David Backus. And that was the last goal he ever scored in a Bruins uniform.
Yeah, now he
So it clearly, the formula works, just not in the way that I want it to work.
So
and it all has to be legitimate. If I say it fake, it doesn't happen.
Right. Also, a little background on, this has helped me become more of a Bruins fan. Cameron's pessimism, I would say. So last year, since we're talking trade deadlines, the Bruins made a great move.
Oh, boy.
fantastic
Move. They traded
I didn't feel
Ryan
this was coming.
Donato for
And a
Charlie Coyle.
fifth-round pick?
For Charlie Coyle.
Mm-hmm.
Cameron hates Charlie Coyle and loves Ryan Donato.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's just because I love Charlie Coyle because, he's awesome and he's from Weymouth, which is pretty cool. Met him a couple times. He's a nice man. So he hates him, and so we have a bet.
Okay.
Whoever's going to score more goals this year.
Jeez.
I get $10.
Yeah.
If Coyle scores more,
Yeah.
he'll get $10 if Donato scores. Right now, it's 12-15.
Because Donato scored last night.
Right. So, a fun little game we play is whenever Coyle scores,
we call it the suck it Cam game.
we'll both text, or if we're watching live, we will both scream at
Yep.
Cameron, suck at Cameron, because Charlie Coyle is a far superior hockey
Almost
Love
get us
Love
in
it.
a little bit of heat a couple of weeks ago. We were at the Blue Line Club in between
Women's and men's
women's and a
yeah.
men's doubleheader, and the Bruins are playing. I think it was the Edmonton game.
They were playing Arizona.
Arizona, that's what it was. They were playing Arizona, and Coyle found the back of the net. So all of a sudden, me and Connor both stand up and go, "Suck it, Cam!" And a couple of our bosses turn to us and go, "Fellas, relax. You're not
on your living room couch.
You're not at home in your living room on your couch."
And we were like, all right, yeah,
You're right. Fair enough.
Take a seat back.
Simmer down.
But yeah, that's a little background on us a little bit. But we're all Bruins fans here.
Yeah.
Trade deadline for the Bruins. I would say
It was pretty interesting.
unique. Not what I was expecting to get out of the trade deadline. Like I said in the headlines, they traded for Andre Kasha right before the trade deadline in exchange for David Backus.
Hopefully he'll be in tomorrow.
Right. First round pick and Axel Anderson, defensive prospect for the Bruins. And then they traded straight up Nick Ritchie for Dan Heinen. So first off, takes on the trades. What do we got?
My whole thing was they sent Backus out last week before the deadline, right?
Yes.
So they sent him out there.
Yep.
And then yesterday they sent out
Ritchie,
Dan
or
or
Heinen.
Monday they sent out Dan Heinen.
Yep.
Why didn't they just do it together? I mean, maybe
there was a cap
Maybe
hold
there
up
might have been
somewhere.
issues, but also with them doing the salary dump for Anaheim and the Bruins retaining 25% of Backus's deal, that might have been, I don't know if that was a puzzle piece, something that maybe didn't fit somewhere.
Right.
Possibly.
But essentially, the way I look at it is the Bruins traded David Backus and Danton Heinen
For Andre Kasha
for
and Nick
Kasha
Ritchie.
and Ritchie. Instead of two separate trades, I just look at it as one.
It is because of the two teams involved, but I think the other thing too is, Sweeney mentioned in his press conference that, there were a lot of embers in the fire. Like there was all kinds of rumors about Thornton coming back.
Right, which
So-
we could get into.
which I never
He's
believed.
pissed, too, that nothing happened for him and
Cameron-
Patrick Marleau got to leave.
Cameron called him a crybaby last night.
It's all right. I've never
I've never been a
been a
Thornton
big
fan,
Jumbo
so-
Joe fan. I don't feel any sympathy for him. Yeah, he was here for a few years, but ever since he's left, he's just had this perpetual stink of losing.
Yeah.
Just a perpetual
That's what
stink
Cameron was
of
saying too, and I
loser.
was like, you can't really blame a guy for wanting to get one last shot at the cup, though.
But my argument was he made it to 4 Western Conference Finals and a Stanley Cup anyway. He had his shots.
Which I've agreed with, but you can't blame him for one last shot.
I mean, I can.
Bork got it.
Exactly.
Bork got the one last shot.
If the shoe is on the other foot, and Bork is at the end of his career, he has 1 year left, 2 years left. So does that mean that he is for demanding a trade and looking to go chase the Stanley Cup? Now, granted, he didn't have any shots outside of like the 88 and 90 finals.
Right.
Yeah. So it's a little bit different. But, at that time, there weren't many players who were asking for trades. Hey, I want to win a Stanley Cup. Let me go to a winner.
Right.
But like in this case, it's something where Thornton asked the management and the management didn't get what they wanted for him. So they're like, yeah, you're going to be staying here for a while.
Which you had a very good point about that.
My idea was, so we all know that Tampa, they're trying to make their big push and not crumble like they did last season. But they got they traded a first for Barclay Goodrow.
Which was
Barclay
wild.
Goodrow is not worth first-round pick. He's
playing bottom six.
He's a bottom 6 winger.
I was going to say maybe late third.
He fills a decent role, sure. But that probably maybe set the Sharks GM a little too high for what he was maybe thinking about Thornton. Because we heard that Boston was in, we heard that Florida was in, and we heard that Dallas was in. And I have a feeling Jim Neal or Don Sweeney picked up the phone and said, hey, we'll give you a third or a fourth for him. And he said, no, first or a second. And they that's way too much. I do think that Joe Thornton probably could have had a role on a major playoff team.
Yeah.
I definitely don't think he would have had it here, especially with the center depth that we have at the moment. But and I also don't think he could have played that Recchi role that
you can't compare
that
to
he
Mark
had.
Recchi at all.
Would not have.
Because, Joe Thornton, I mean, different games, obviously, but Mark Recchi never really lost his speed, even at 42 years old in his last season. Joe can't move.
They called him the wrecking ball for a reason.
That's just my opinion on it.
Yeah, no.
And then on the Heinen move, I wasn't so sure about it when 5 minutes after I had heard about it, because I like Dan Heinen. I think he plays, he's a really good penalty killer. He plays a good role. I mean, obviously he hasn't reached his 48. I mean, he put 48 points in his rookie year.
Yep. And
he hasn't reached that yet. But I like the Ritchie move. I think we do need size, especially after the Blues punked us out and stole our lunch money in all games, honestly. I was going to say Game 7, but they did it in Game 2
Game 7,
3,
it was much more
and
noticeable.
everything else. But also, you have to look at the cap hit. Heinen was making, 3.3?
Yep.
Right.
Richie's on 1.6.
And that's
which is great.
That's exactly what that move was for, is you basically traded Backus and Heinen to re-sign DeBrusk and Krug in the offseason.
That's exactly it.
I was just going to say the same thing.
And I think I have a friend who is an Anaheim fan, so he had some inside information. Kasha and Richie played on the same line in Anaheim. Apparently, they have some good chemistry. So I'm thinking maybe you put Krejci with Kasha and Richie. Maybe Richie can kind of be that 2011 Lucic,
I would welcome that.
We all know
Yeah.
Krejci needs protection.
Yeah.
Because he gets bungled around.
see, the thing is,
he
Krejci's
gets no
very
respect
picky.
out there.
He's
But
picky.
Krejci's been very picky throughout his career as far as who he plays with on the wings.
And I think DeBrusk...
I think having that other Czech
yeah.
in Kasha out there with him.
Yeah.
I think that might give him a little bit of mojo in his game.
I think that can give him some, especially since, Krejci and Kasha are pretty quick. They're going to make Richie skate with him.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm not saying he's the next Lucic,
right.
But there's the potential that he could at least maybe fill a decent part of that role, especially since he had a higher points per game than Danton Heinen when he was traded for him. And on that horrible Anaheim team, he was a +3.
See, that's the key. Is like Kasha is going to be so much better on this Bruins team because he's going to actually have guys who can dish him the puck.
Right.
So he's going to be a lot better by default. So he makes the team better, but he's also going to be better because he has other supporting cast members around him.
And that's been the thing with Kasha is his ceiling is so high, but he hasn't been able to reach that because he was playing in Anaheim.
Yeah.
And injury. He's had a lot of injury problems.
Injuries.
Right.
That's the other thing too I wanted to bring up with that is like, can he stay healthy? And I mean, he didn't play last night against Calgary, and granted, whatever, he just got sent here a couple of days ago, whatever. I guess he was feeling under the weather, so he didn't skate on Saturday or Sunday when he got here, blah, 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 whatever. And then with all the craziness of the trade deadline on Monday, he went out and he took part in an optional skate, and then yesterday was a morning skate as well. So you're not really gonna get the gears going as fully during an optional skate or a morning skate as you would in a regular full practice. So I guess they wanted to hold him out to kind of give him a little bit more time to adjust.
Also, the thing about Kasha is I don't know. I know he's had an injury problem or injury history, but I don't know if it's from hits or anything like that. But if it is, you turn around, there's Chara, there's Carlo, there's Wagner,
you got guys that will
there's
respond.
Richie already.
Yeah.
Clifton can drop him.
Yeah.
Lauzon dropped him the other night. Obviously,
big
this
Jeremy
team is
Lauzon
willing
guy.
to fight for each other, and if it ever came down to that point, we know that the skill guys are going to be protected.
Right.
Yep.
And I think, if to go back on your point with putting those two guys with Krejci, I think DeBrusk and Kuhlman with Coyle could really work.
Especially that one pass that Kuhlman had with Coyle that put the
him on the
game.
breakaway.
It was the game winner. Yeah.
Yeah. That was
So-
nice.
I don't know if people realize how good Coleman actually is.
Oh, he's so good.
He the thing with him is he almost hasn't been given enough opportunity for a full season to have like a role on a single line or even bouncing between the lines. First of all, his first step quickness is unbelievable.
So good.
And also and this is one of the things that, especially in the scouting community that people typically look for. It's hockey IQ. It's knowing. So what is the next step? What is the next step that you need to hit before that next play happens?
Which Anders Bjork has none of that.
That is correct. Bjork is an athletic kid.
Yes.
Bjork is really athletic.
He's got all the skill in the world.
He can shoot it a little bit, and when he has room, he's good.
Yep.
But not the most physical kid. Not the definitely not the best player on that team.
But
So
when it comes to split-second decisions,
yeah.
he does not have it. But Coleman, on the other hand,
Coleman is really, really smart.
he's a Duluth kid.
I'm very biased as well because he played for the Dubuque Fighting Saints. My mom's from there, so I have a little bit of a bias. And also, when Kuhlman first came up, Connor was in Switzerland because he had a friend over that he was visiting, and I was watching. It was his first game. He was playing the Blue Jackets, and I was watching. I'm like, Connor, you need to check out this Kuhlman kid. He's all over the place. I've never heard of him before.
Yeah.
So it's great that we have young kids that are finally able, and especially a coach like Bruce Cassidy, who's willing to play the young kids. We all know that Claude was very touch and go with Sagan and whoever, especially up in Montreal. He's got a lot of young kids that he's kind of, I understand, you want to put the training wheels on a young kid, but eventually you just got to let that horse run and see what he can do. And it's great that Bruce is willing to at least take chances and see what sticks.
All right, we were up against the break here. When we come back,
More talk.
more
Got a lot
trade
more to
deadline
talk
talk. We've covered the Bruins here.
Yeah, we'll get more of the
get into
NHL.
some of the other moves that happen around the rest of the league. Again, stay tuned at the bottom of the hour. We get the bag of fun question of the week coming up, so be sure to stay tuned for that. This is Titletown.
Wait, before the break, our special word of the night, lemon meringue pie. Go ahead.
Okay, that's all that needs to be said. This is Titletown Takes here in WMCK.
Breaking news. It's not hockey or anything. Joel Embiid has gone down injured in the Sixers game.
Oh, man.
So another injury for him as well.
But trust the process.
Trust the process.
Trust the process.
Wait, look out the window.
What's out the window?
Oh, there goes the last care I gave. Flying
Zinger! All right.
all right.
More hockey talk. Here we
Trade
go.
talk from around the rest of the NHL. Apologies to anybody out there that's, was looking for a little bit of Celtics talk or anything like that. But
People,
We'll get you next
the
week.
true fans who listen to Titletown Takes know this is a hockey show at the end of the day. So
I mean, in all fairness, you mentioned the Celtics in your headlines.
I did.
So.
I always mention the Celtics in my headlines.
You can also blame the guest. I mean, it's a hockey guest, so
True.
what are you going to do?
Good point. Good
I
point, Mark.
thought maybe next segment we could
You know
talk
what, Mark? Let's talk
tiddlywinks.
some cricket.
Some jacks,
Oh, yeah.
hopscotch.
Skee ball.
All right, Mark, what's
Back to hockey.
what's one trade from Monday that really caught your eye, whether it was good or bad, and why?
Okay, so I would say off the bat, the one that was surprising was Leonard when he got dealt. I honestly thought that he had a good thing going. I guess it's one of those things where you need a good backup in the NHL. So I understand why they made the trade. It's the same thing with the Bruins and Halak. Like they're paying him like $3 million or whatever it is to be the backup, but he's such a serviceable backup that he could be a starter elsewhere.
Yeah, sure.
So like the fact that he moved, I thought was really interesting, and so like that to me was the most noteworthy. But in terms of the trade I like the most, it's Athanasiou by far.
I love that one.
Yeah.
Great move for Edmonton.
Who else did Edmonton get? They got another
Mike Green.
Yes, they got Mike Green,
I
too.
liked that
As
too.
well.
But Mike Green is not Mike Green of
No,
old.
but still, he's a big body to have.
But Edmonton doesn't play defense, so they can
That's
use Mike Green.
Great point.
Yeah, that's also, and he's a veteran guy. They're a young team. Who knows? He could click and start
The whole
being
Pacific
Mike
is a
Green
mess
like he was
anyway,
in 2010.
So now they have one defenseman, so now all they need is 4 more.
Yeah, right.
The Oilers also picked up Tyler Ennis
Yep, that was
from
good.
the Sens for
That
a
was good.
21 fifth rounder.
Which I think the lines this morning or after the deadline, it was Athanasiou, McDavid, and Ennis.
Yeah,
That's
which
fun.
is nuts.
That's crazy.
That's fun.
Because the whole season they've had Draisaitl and McDavid together, which is fine. They'll get all the points in the world.
But you need to
when
spread
you're-
that out.
When your two best players are on the same line, and it's
Yeah.
A plus, B,
Yep.
C minus, D is what you're rocking with. I mean, James Neal's been out for a while too, so that's kind of it's affected them, I think, for sure in the goal scoring category. But
Cam, what's a trade that kind of stuck out to you?
I mean, it was an interesting trade considering where everybody is in the standings. It was the Vinny Trocheck move.
that was so
For
crazy.
Paula and
Especially between two teams that
I
are
don't
right
remember
there
the other guy.
potentially battling for
And then
that
two
last
prospects.
wildcard spot.
but it's like I know Vinny Trocheck is a really good player, like we've all seen it. But it was just really weird because Florida is right in the hunt for a playoff spot, and moving a big player like that. I mean, I know Eric Holla, and I'm drawing a blank on who the other guy was, which stinks.
I'll find him. Holmstrom, was it? That sounds right.
I don't know.
In that deal,
Yeah.
there was Lucas Walmart
Yeah, Lucas. Okay,
Walmart,
so
yes.
it was just
and E2 Lesterainen and Chase Prisky.
there must be something I'm missing because I know Carolina's right on the bubble, and especially with how hectic the Metro is, where we could have teams that are better than the Leafs
Yep.
miss the playoffs because of the format, which we've already got into on this show. But I must be missing something because Florida's right in the hunt and they traded just one of their best players. And I mean, maybe they saw something in Halla and Walmart that they like, but it was just a real head scratcher to me.
Connor?
Let me tell you, Felga, Ito Listerine is not the player you want to get for the Bruins. Johnny, he's not on the Bruins.
Hey, Felga, I noticed that Kasha wasn't even. He wasn't like he was a non-factor. He was a horrible move.
Vinny,
Connor,
he
what's a trade out there that you were a fan of from Monday?
So I
not
liked.
Bruins related.
So I liked who they got. I did not like how much they gave up for him. I liked that the Islanders got Jean-Gabriel Pageau.
Oh, you little!
I
stole
think that was a good move.
I
didn't
said he
like
would get moved.
What they got on. I also liked the Avalanche getting a depth guy in Nemestikov. I thought that was very good for them. Depth guy you can throw in anywhere, really. I thought all that was good.
Better than Nikushkin.
Hi, my name is Valden Chulskin. I also think Pittsburgh getting Patrick Marleau.
Pittsburgh they loaded
I don't know
up.
what to think about that one.
And also, who else did they get? They got
Connor Sheary and Evan Rodriguez.
and Evan Rodriguez. They got Jason Zucker, who instantly worked with Sidney Crosby. I mean, it's hard not to.
Yeah,
work
and
with
now they're
Sidney
gonna
Crosby.
now they're potentially gonna roll out Crosby, Zucker, and Marlowe, or Crosby, Zucker, and Sheary.
They're
and then
gonna
when
be,
Gensel comes back,
they're gonna be tough.
Depth will be legit for them.
So from the East, the big teams for me is the Bruins, the Penguins, the Hurricanes, and the Lightning.
No, I don't think the Hurricanes are in it. I can see them.
Who are you
missing the
guys
playoffs.
bigger? Who are you guys winners and losers out of this
Winners?
deadline?
Absolutely the Oilers.
Oilers won.
Oilers,
Yeah.
and then I would say the Flames are right there too, because both of those teams they bulked up. They were going back and forth for a while. It was probably a solid 45 minutes to an hour where it was just Calgary adds so and so, Edmonton adds so and so,
right.
Calgary acquires,
Yeah.
Edmonton acquires. Like both of those teams just kept going back and forth, adding piece for piece, because I think they see the writing on the wall, and I think they see a big time first round meeting in the playoffs.
I really hope that's the case.
I think
that would be so fun.
I think the Islanders are big winners out of this.
Yes.
If Peugeot can, he already signed the extension, so
Well,
that's big.
If he can live up to that
But he
extension.
can live up to the
Also,
extension, exactly.
They won that now. in 5 years, we'll
Right,
see.
right,
Because
exactly.
what they give up, it was the first, second, and third, right?
Yeah.
That's so
I-
crazy.
'cause
Which one? Who are we talking about?
Peugeot.
Peugeot. Oh, yeah.
I thought Peugeot was French for glass, made of glass. I could be wrong, but I'm not 100% sure.
Well, it would check out if he was.
He never ever holds up, and they're giving him $5-6 million a year. Someone's going to have to explain that one to me, because like I get that he produces. Like when he's in, he produces. And in the new NHL where you have like your Johnny Gaudreaus and those kind of guys, you can, stay on the periphery and you can, just go in every once in a while, shoot, score, fine.
Right.
But like I don't know that he can hold up. I don't think he can. I don't know.
Well, here's the thing: is he's like the most stereotypical New York Islander player for me. Like him,
You're right.
Matt Barzal,
You're
all
right.
of them, like those tiny skill guys.
You're right.
The Islanders always seem to get those guys.
Yeah. And then you
the
pair them.
then you have a coach like
Trotz.
Trotz, yeah.
Mhm.
Who gets the best out of everybody. He
Yes, he
brought
does.
those horrible Predators teams to the playoffs
Yep.
in his first couple of years. So
Here's one that no one's talked about. Carolina getting Brady Shea from the Rangers.
That's
So
big.
they paid out the nose to get him.
yeah.
2020 first round.
Yeah.
A move I also think is super underrated for Calgary. You were just talking about it. Them getting Eric Gustafsson
Yep.
is huge.
Good move.
Only for
Good
a
move.
third. Gustafsson's a good defenseman, especially bulking up their back end come the playoff times. Like
Yeah.
Calgary's going to be tough.
They could use some physicality, so not bad having him on the back end.
Absolutely. But to go back to your point on the Brady Shea, they got Sami Vatanen in too. Like the back end in Carolina is going to be good.
Yeah, they're much improved from where they were.
Yeah.
I feel like last year it was almost like a Cinderella story kind of thing,
Yes.
where it was a lot of young kids. They were just trying to figure things out. Justin Williams was like the old man who kind of led them all by the hand to figure the whole thing
He was
out.
like
but
the Recchi of the Bruins.
Yeah.
Exactly. And there's nobody you want to face in a playoff series less than Justin Williams.
Yeah. Also, so I think
I mean, I said that the Canes were going to win that series against Caps. He didn't believe me. But it's on record.
yeah, it is. I said that.
It's on air out there
I said the
somewhere.
Caps are going to sweep them.
I'm surprised that wasn't a drop somewhere.
You know why it's
It
not
will be next
Mark?
week.
You know why it's not Mark? Guess who makes those intros?
Boom.
Me. So I'm not
There
putting
we
myself. But yeah, you know what the thing in Carolina is? They bought into who's the coach? Brendan Moore.
Yes.
They bought.
Yes.
He is a super good coach for that kind of team.
He is. And that's one thing actually that a lot of NHL teams have started to do now. Look at what the Bruins did when they moved on from Julian, where they brought up pretty much their entire staff from Providence and brought them up so that you have the young guys who are getting up into the majors, and now they're going in and they know the coaching staff. They know exactly what to expect, and they've been schooled in that. And also for anyone out there who's looking for some bonus reading material, there's actually a really good athletic article. I don't remember what the title of it was, but they talk about how the fact that Providence is one of the better places to prepare as a coach.
Wow.
And there's like an entire lineage of players, or rather of coaches, who have gone through Providence and gone on to some prominence. So guys like Laviolette and obviously Cassidy and
This is a book.
no, it's an athletic article. So they published it, I think, probably maybe a year ago, maybe a little less. But there's a great athletic article about how Providence is preparing coaches.
There you go. Do you want a little Sunday read this weekend? There you go.
Sunday read. You can read it tomorrow in between
Sure.
periods.
3 free
of the
articles on the
Yeah,
Athletic.
right.
3 free articles on the Athletic every month. So
There you go.
give that one a read.
Huh.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
I
Well,
caved.
now-
I subscribed.
You get 3 every month.
Well, I'll take advantage of that.
Huh.
That's how I read some of Fluto's articles.
Yeah, I'm kind of spoiled. I subscribed.
Yeah, I did too. I was like, yeah, there's
It's the
there's
best.
enough good stuff coming out of that.
Yeah.
You know that it's worth the
Right.
investment.
Right,
So,
and also the uniqueness of the stories they pursue is really interesting too. Like the stuff that Fluto did, where he traveled down to Mexico for a story about a stick. Like
That's
yeah,
so
yeah.
cool.
it's absurd how much depth they go to for some of these stories. And
Yeah.
they just did a story on Jake DeBrusk having the stick that has a hole in
the
it.
whole yeah.
So it's really interesting.
Big J Journos.
All right, we are up against our final break of the night. When we come back, we will have our much-awaited bag of fun question of the night, and we will get to that on the other side of the break. This is Titletown Takes here on WMCK Merrimack College. Titletown Takes. Ian Beauchesne joined alongside Connor Powell and Cameron Urbowicz, and we want to take a second and thank Mark Bilotta joining us from the neutral zone here tonight in studio. Really appreciate you taking time out of your Wednesday night and joining us here.
Thank you for having me, gentlemen. I appreciate it. This has been a boatload of fun. This has been awesome.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Love it.
That's what we do. We're here to have fun, you know.
Yeah. At the end of the day,
let some outrageous hot takes fly across the microphones. And, you know, ultimately we're here for some laughs.
that's why it says in the intro, we're here for fun, vibes, and most certainly hot takes.
So
I'm waiting for that BU to be a hot take drop at some point. It's coming. It's coming.
If BU loses, I know who I'm texting first.
Yeah.
But all right, before we get to the bag of fun, we got to give Cam his Pennzoil 404. Cameron, the floor is yours.
All right, so this week, the NASCAR Cup Series circuit headed to Las Vegas, Nevada for the running of the Pennzoil.
Las Vegas.
There you go.
There you go.
For the running of the Pennzoil 400, it rained all day Saturday, and it was sunny all day on Sunday, so no Monday running of a race this week. The Miracle on Ice Olympic team gave the starting command to start the engines. It was real nice that they've really had a really nice go-around tour for the 40th anniversary. It's been real nice to see everybody, you know, saying their piece about everything that happened all those years ago. Chase Elliott, my pick, my driver, my selection from the three in this place. He won both stages, and he was leading late in the race, but unfortunately, he blew a tire heading into turn number 1, hit the wall, and he ended up finishing mid-pack.
Cameron, you want to hear something? It's not who's first. It's who's first
Yeah,
last.
I
Keep that in mind.
I understand.
If you ain't first, you last.
That's right. That's right.
Ryan Blaney was leading late on in the race before a spin by the replacement of Ryan Newman. With 6 laps to go, brought out the yellow flag, which stacked everybody back up. And misfortunate for some, like Alex Bowman and Ryan Blaney, who had a great chance of winning the race, especially Bowman, who was catching him at the end of the race. It was Joey Logano, who was money in Las Vegas. He hit the jackpot, winning the Pennzoil 400. And that's about what happened post-race. No infractions from the race-winning car, but Connor's driver, Kyle Larson, was fined for having a missing lug nut in post-race inspection.
Happens to the best of us.
How'd my guy do?
We'll get to that. The TV rating, 5.5 million, up 9% from the Atlanta race that was in the same spot last season, and it was the highest-rated sports program on Sunday afternoon, beating the Celtics and the Lakers on ABC, which was a big surprise.
Cool. NASCAR's back.
I hope so. I hope maybe with this whole Barstool thing that we can get some young people back into the sport and all that. Top 10 for the race. Joey Logano wins the race. Matt DiBenedetto in the Wood Brothers 21 Ford ties the best career finish. In second, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who had a pretty good Daytona 500, wrecked late, comes back with a great run in third place. Fourth place, we have the first driver of the pick here. It is Austin Dillon, driving the number 3 Richard Childress.
Nice. Get a top 5 finish, too.
Driving the number 3 RCR Chevrolet. Jimmy Johnson with a great comeback as well in his last season, his second race. Top 5 finish. Bubba Wallace, Darrell Wallace Jr.
Hold on, Cameron. I have a quick note here. Jimmy Johnson should be sponsored by Jimmy John's next.
Jimmy John's sponsors a car in
Hot
NASCAR.
take,
They
Connor.
sponsor Kevin Harvick.
Okay.
Just like the Busch brothers should be sponsored by Busch Beer.
Light. Yeah, that's a good point.
Bubba Wallace in his Richard Petty Racing Chevrolet with a 6th place finish, which is a great run for him. Brad Keselowski in his Miller Lite Ford with a 7th place finish. Kevin Harvick drove it home in 8th for his Stewart Haas Ford Racing team. Kyle Larson in 9th place in his Chevrolet. And Ty Dillon, the other Dillon brother, with a great finish, 10th place for him. Top 10 in points right now in the Cup Series. Ryan Blaney in 1st, Joey Logano 2nd, Kevin Harvick in 3rd, Kyle Larson in 4th. Then it's Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Chase Elliott, Austin Dillon, Matt DiBenedetto, and a real surprise, Chris Buescher in the JTG Doherty, fun fact, owned by NBA Hall of Famer Brad Doherty racing team. So there's your top 10, and the current standings for highest finisher is Connor 1, Ian 1, and I have the big fat goose egg right now.
Yeah.
And that was your...
Suck it, Cam.
There's your Pennzoil 404 minutes.
Nice.
Back to y'all.
What's knowing NASCAR do for you? Clearly nothing, Cameron.
Yeah.
Clearly nothing.
Well, what does Ricky Bobby say? You
You ain't first, you last.
That's right. And who's the first now?
All right,
yells at
Connor,
time.
what time? What? What time is it, my friend?
It's time for the bag of fun. Bag of fun. Everybody's ready for the bag of fun question of the night. Cameron, what do we got?
All right, so if you guys haven't been picking up on the theme from the songs tonight, we've been going with all goal songs. We went with Toronto's, then we went with it was Nashville, and then Anaheim's as well. So
Little old school Winnipeg Jets on there.
oh
too,
yeah,
with
hell
Red
yeah,
Theater.
Winnipeg Jets, Buffalo Sabres as
Yes,
well.
I knew we
I knew
were
I was
missing one.
missing one.
Yep.
So gentlemen,
Yes.
we all have favorite goal horns
Sure.
and favorite goal songs. We also have goal songs and goal horns that we absolutely despise and hate to hear.
Yep.
Why either from the team that has them or just in general.
Sure.
Gentlemen, your favorite and least favorite goal horns in the NHL.
Let's go around the horn. Mark?
All right, I'll kick this thing off.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll go with favorite goal song to start.
Sure.
Favorite goal song, and it's
We're using horn and song combined.
oh,
So,
horn and song
yeah,
combined.
Yeah.
Or we
All right,
could do
that's fine.
separate
We
and
could
do
do separate.
song and then loop back and do
All
horn.
right.
All right, so yeah, we'll go.
Either-
all right, we'll
Let's
start
do
with
song and then loop back to horn.
Either way, the song is so good that it wouldn't matter if they had no horn.
Okay.
That's how strong a take this is for me. My absolute favorite, bar none, is the Dallas Stars.
Yeah.
Pantera. And the song is actually called
Wow, we got it lined up.
Yep. So
I think it kind of speaks for itself.
yeah,
So
there's
good.
it was actually so the funny thing about it is it was actually written during the Dallas Stars run to the playoffs and to the Stanley Cup in '99.
Yeah.
And it was basically the Dallas Stars played golf with Pantera because of course you play golf with Pantera. And I think it was Craig Ludwig, one of the captains on the team, said, "Hey, we're looking for a song for the playoffs. Do you think you can write something?" So Vinnie Paul, the drummer, and Dimebag Darrell, who was the lead guitarist, they put together a quick song based off a riff they had written but never put into a song.
Wow.
And they dropped it into Ludwig's mailbox, which at the time was a thing people did. And so he said, "Hey, here's the song. If you like it, play it. If not, whatever. We don't really care."
Sure.
So they ended up playing it, and it's literally been their goal song since 1999.
Wow.
They also skate out to it as well.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
through the lit up star at the
that's
tunnel,
so
which
cool.
is kind of
Yep.
cool.
Yep.
All right, Cameron.
All right, so favorite goal horn. Me and Connor were actually talking about this on the way over, which spawned the idea. My favorite has been used by a couple of teams, but it is currently used by the Calgary Flames. It just has so much power to it. Oh, wait, we're doing songs, my bad. Whatever, you can move around and get the song later.
Do they still
But,
do Shot Down in Flames?
No, they haven't used that since 06, 07. I know they used it in the 04 playoff round. I thought they were still using.
They went with
This
different
is
names.
awesome.
I thought they were still using Right to Smoke. But Calgary's horn is up there for me. It actually it isn't one of my favorites because it's Calgary's. The first NHL game I ever went to was a Flyers game, and they used that horn at the time.
Yeah, there was something
and I was a big
similar,
fan of
wasn't
it.
it? Yeah.
I think it was the exact same horn, but I was a big fan of it back then, and I don't know why Calgary or why Philadelphia got rid of it, but I'm certainly happy that it lives on in another rink. But that's my favorite goal horn.
All right. On the note of songs, call me a mark, call me a nerd, whatever you want. I love the Rangers goal song. I think it
It's
fits.
catchy.
I think it fits.
It is catchy.
Interestingly, they haven't won a Stanley Cup since they brought the song
Yeah,
in.
but,
Yeah.
you know,
true.
I'm not a Rangers fan, so I don't care.
Yeah,
I'm assuming you guys know last Rangers Cup?
94.
94.
There you go.
It's so catchy.
It is.
And we were talking about this too at dinner time. Their victory song is catchy too. The song
Yeah.
that they play after they win.
Yep.
That's a catchy tune
Yeah.
too. Oh, we're all a bunch of hockey nerds.
Yeah,
in
it's
here.
so cute. Yeah, so that's mine.
It's a good choice.
So going off of songs, I mean, obviously every local kid loves the Bruins one just because it's around. and I know Cameron's gonna hate me for this. I love crowd chant.
Okay.
Love it.
It's okay to have bad
The
opinions.
guitar is just electric. I mean, the guitar is electric.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, at the end of this alone, you get the woo! Repeated from the 3 hundos up at the Nassau Coliseum.
You know a chant you always find at an Islanders Rangers game. If you know the Rangers suck, then clap your hands. If you know the Rangers suck, then clap your hands. If you know the Rangers suck, in 94
And
they
then-
bought the cup.
Yes.
The wrestling fan in me loves that part.
Yeah. So that's my favorite goal song. All right, we're gonna get back around the horn, back over to Mark.
Let me do my song first because I
your
jumped
song-
out
yeah,
of
yeah.
line. My favorite goal song. I mean, I like a lot of goal songs that aren't used anymore. That's my issue.
Doesn't matter.
Okay, so my favorite goal song, Connor knows about it. The Oilers used it for a couple of years back in 2013, so he didn't hit very much. But they use a German techno song called Dup Dup, and it really has a real nice tone to it. I don't think you could find it on there, but I think it has a lot of electricity to it because it just has a real good beat to it. And that's probably my favorite one. I'm trying to think if there's any others. Favorite current goal song? It's corny and it's stupid. Nashville's. It just has that feeling to it. Montreal's old one was really good as well. Before they got rid of it.
Vertigo?
No, the Ale Montreal song.
Oh, yes.
But they
yes,
got
yes,
rid
yes.
of that because I think the singer of the song got a DUI.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Well, it's the same reason why Gary Glitter isn't really playing as much in the
yeah.
Rangers anymore either.
So those are mine.
I got it here.
Yeah, Montreal's called Le Bout,
Le Bout. Et Le Bout.
which is annoying as hell to hear in person. Trust me.
Yes, it is.
You got to go a little farther. There it is.
No, the Flyers use this too. At one
No, the
point.
Flyers use a different song
It
called
is different.
Doop Doop. It's Dup Dup and Doop Doop. Also, the other song is also called Maria, I Like It Loud.
Well,
I know my goal
That
songs.
that
Not
one was
bad.
interesting.
Not
That was-
bad.
I think it's good. I actually
right.
put that in the sound computer.
Mark, your favorite goal horn?
So I definitely have a choice, and I have a choice of one I don't like for sure. Also, I'm disappointed that Shot Down in Flames isn't used anymore
it's
with the
so
Calgary
good,
Flames.
yeah.
That is one of my favorite all-time
At least they
AC/DC
still
songs.
use Ring of Fire.
They use,
so
they
good.
use Ring of Fire. Yeah, they use Ring
Yes,
of Fire.
Ring of Fire
as
is
their
great
win song.
too.
Yeah.
There are so many options you can go to there. So that's just one thing. In terms of, I'll start with goal horn that I can't stand, and that would be Columbus's giant cannon.
Oh.
That thing is absurd.
It's cool, but
The song is great.
I love the cannon.
The execution is frightening.
Yes.
So
I love seeing the reactions. Like,
yeah.
you'll get players that go in there, whatever, and
Yep.
like I forget who it was. Might have been somebody in the Tampa series in the first round last year that all of a sudden they took a video. I don't know. I can't remember. But it was in the playoffs
I
last
remember
year.
this.
Someone all of a sudden Columbus scored or whatever, and they weren't prepared for the cannon.
Yes.
and they're
Ducking.
ducking on the bench,
Yep.
trying to get the cover. And
Yep.
that's like
Yep.
you don't see that too often.
It's a good
talk
But-
about a mind game.
But I will say that just to wrap it, I'll say my favorite goal horn. I love the deep bass of the San Jose Sharks.
Dang it, Mark! Dang it!
I love the Sharks.
I love the Sharks one.
I love it.
It's so
now,
good.
Now,
With their goal song, too. I
Yep.
love their goal song.
Sounds like an old school foghorn that you hear it like. This is like so fun.
Straight out of the 90s.
Takes you. Yeah, I was just gonna say, takes you right back to 1990.
Jock Jams, baby. Jock Jams.
Also, least favorite goal song, since I have it on mine, I hate Loxley the Whip, and I hate that we use it as our win song. I hate it.
Yeah, it's kind of.
All right. Before we start running out of time here, what do we got?
I had Sharks.
You
so
have the
right
Sharks?
to you.
Wow.
I also like Calgary too.
This might come as a bit of a shock, but I'm a big fan of the Colorado Avalanche one. It's another thunderous one.
I miss the old Avalanche siren.
Oddly enough, it's something that sounds like it would start an avalanche on the side of a mountain.
Yeah, pretty basic.
Oh,
Wait, what?
there it is. It's just
How
deeper.
many years is this?
That's why I didn't say anything, because I knew they used it.
I did not know that.
And you got the old school siren too.
Also, do you have a Zombie Nation hot take before we get off the air?
Yeah, so I love Zombie Nation. I love it. All these people want it. I mean, I get, it's been used forever, sure. But, as a Bruins fan, it's got a soft spot in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'll say about it. It's not really a hot take, but I like it. That like original after like the goal horn stops when you're like at a playoff game, it's pretty great.
It'll always have a special
Can't
place
wait
in
to
my
hear it
heart.
tomorrow night.
Oh yeah.
It'll always have a special place in my heart because of the 2011 playoff run.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. We got one more thing here.
No, that's about all. That's about all we got time, right? I mean,
Yeah, it's 9
9
o'clock.
clock's at 9. So, on that note,
There you go.
Nice.
that'll do it. There's the final siren going here. Only fitting that we kind of ended this way with it being a very hockey-heavy night here tonight. Again, we want to thank Mark Bilotta from the Neutral Zone coming out to join us here. Hope to get you back here sometime soon. Again, maybe when NHL playoffs start rolling around and we get closer like the Frozen Four and stuff like that, we'd love to get you in here again. Do some more talking about that.
I'm down.
For that
Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right, so we'll book that. I want to get my girlfriend to show up. I've been sitting over here quietly in the corner.
We have a live studio audience.
We did an audience member tonight, so shout out to her. She's been sitting here all night.
Shout out to all our loyal listeners. We know you're out there.
Hi, Dad.
Hi, Mom. Hi, Boosh. Maybe.
I hope. Yeah, we'll find out
Blaney.
about that.
We know you're listening.
Bueller.
All right, that'll do it for us here again for our guest Mark Bilotta here in studio, for my co-host Powell and Cameron Urbowicz. My name's Ian Beauchesne. This has been Titletown Takes. Lights out. Good night.
But I'm wishing and hoping that just once those doors were locked. I like to stay down my big